Hello and welcome to another edition of the Low Code Campfire. This is the edition for number 94 for April 21st, 2023. I am Dale Warner, Head of Support for Plant and App. I'm joined today by Patrick Anderson, who is a Technical Success Manager for Plant and App, and we'll be hosting the conversation today. This is an event we do every Friday this hour. It's an all skill levels welcome experience to get together and talk about Plant and App in general and what challenges you might be encountering with it, and talking about things that are new in the product, things that we've done. Be ready to engage with us, please. You can see these, all these episodes are recorded and are out on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/plantandapp. We'll run this agenda today where we'll say hello and then give everyone a chance to first call whatever problem or discussion point that you might want to bring up, and then we may talk about some of these other things as well. After an hour or so, we'll go into our afterglow segment, and we'll opportunity to turn off the recording and just have a talk and raise an adult beverage on a Friday afternoon. Well, it's almost afternoon anyway. Do jump in, show and tell, talk with us, but do engage. If you've got noise going on behind you, we ask you to mute. Other than that, maybe your noise cancellation will cut that out and that won't be a problem. You can submit questions and topics in advance. Links are in the emails that we send to you, but also you can use this QR code. So, hello everyone, big group today.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
We have some, Anthony, are you joining us from early in your morning?
Yes, I've been missing school, so I thought I'd turn up to class.
Well, Anthony is always very good about sending me feedback in the next day after he's watching the recording. So even if you can't get up and make it to the live, I know you're participating. Good deal. So first call, who's got something going on?
Morning, Dale. Jerry here.
Hello, sir.
Everything's fantastic on our end. My first call is to introduce my partner in crime and the Chief Executive Officer of Genesis Consulting. I've got Dennis Ash on board with us this morning. He's going to step in and listen and probably interject any of his thoughts. But Dennis has been programming in DNN almost since the inception, and he's been with Plant and App and AKA DNN Sharp since almost its very most earliest humble days. So very experienced in what we're doing, but he's still new to the low code concept, and it makes him a little nervous because, you know, where there's change, that means we got to stop and relearn everything again, and we're nurturing him along. But I just wanted to step in and say that Dennis is on board with us. And Dennis, if you're listening to this, I'm going to hush and let you speak for yourself for just a second.
Well, thank you, Jerry. Can everybody hear me?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, then.
Welcome to the group.
Thank you. As Jerry said, I kind of, am in the background most of the time, working on servers or doing something, whatever Jerry needs me to take care of. But he is the guru here, not me, on this stuff. And I have not had any experience basically with Plant and App, just with the DNN Sharp modules that we've worked with for many years. But anyway, I'm looking forward to participating and trying to get up to speed on Plant and App as well.
Well, good. I think that's the experience that most of us in this group have, having come from that, and so it's everything you know and know and love and more, right? So it's the and more part that we're working to get better at. But
one of the biggest takeaways from Plant and App that I encourage any of my existing we'll call them the old schoolers, Dale, programmers like Dennis, is that you really don't have to change your mindset at all if you don't want to. Short of some new UIs and some screens, everything is still there. But for the newbies coming on, like my son Ryder and others that we plan to hire and have hired, there's a much smoother path to success than what there was, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And so I think Dennis and others like us, they get nervous because they're afraid, oh gosh, do I have to really relearn this all over again? And it's just really painless. The low code environment and the new interfaces that we've designed in the later versions of Plan App, for me at least, once I become just acclimated with where the new buttons were, everything has been smooth as silk and have enjoyed the experience.
Oh, good. Absolutely.
All right. Well, let's officially move on. Talk about something that's really important.
No. That's important. We're glad to expand the group, and what normally happens here is there's an opportunity to in first call opportunity to talk about something that maybe you've been banging your head against, or something that you want to bounce off of these other dozen people that have been here before. And so, there's an opportunity to bring something like that, and then there's an opportunity to help people out when with you may have done something similar or exactly that thing. So, yeah, it's two-way, and we're glad to have you here to learn, here to help.
Well, the thing that came to us this week for the first time in testing out one of our larger clients' migration from old to new, I remember all of us talking about this, but I had forgotten it apparently, is in Action Form, we used to have something called the left side and the right side HTML boxes on the form. And I think we all had this conversation. We all kind of agreed that we really never used that. Well, it turns out we had an engineer that used it a lot and used it so much. In fact, he had Mahaya over at the corporate engineering office do some custom programming inside that right HTML box. And somewhere along the migration path, it disappeared on us and wreaked havoc on me. It took me a few minutes to figure out where it went and what happened and why that happened. But I don't know if anybody else has used those boxes in the past, but you might want to, if you haven't migrated to the whatever version it would be, I'm guessing somewhere around 1.21 or 2.2, we lost those boxes. And but has anybody else experienced those disappearing and had any repercussions from it? Or were you smarter than me and planned for
it? So I think, I'm going back to take a look to try to see when that did happen. And what was that feature called? Left side.
Yeah, if you're in Action Form and you were in the settings, the engineers had provided us some formatting where on your form you could have what they called left side HTML and another box for right side HTML, and it basically used the CSS, and it allowed you just to put HTML either on the left of your form or the right of your form. Mm-hmm. And something that I just did not use enough to remember, and many of us on this call may have never used it at all, but if you did use it, it's gone. And as of 1.24, it does not exist.
Well, and my one of the things that I want to do is try and figure out when that happened. And Patrick, maybe you have a recollection or can find that, but
I'm trying to look it up.
Yeah, I was trying to look it up. It really should have been a breaking change notification, and I can't find one of those. So I hate that you experienced it by getting it installed and upgraded and then finding it's gone. We try to put things like that we're removing into our breaking change notification, so you can know that as you cross the boundary or before you cross the boundary. So,
well, as the great news is it was in the testing environment. So, and on this one particular client that you've helped us with, as you know, we're really micromanaging the test process before we jump over the fence, just because we have to, because it's a freight train running 9,000 miles an hour down the road that is not willing to pull off the tracks and let us play with this. So we're doing our due diligence, Dale. Let's say that.
Well, yeah, and so I'm very good about that, and I always encourage, if you possibly can, to do your upgrades in a dev environment, and know that so that you don't get into production panic. But yeah, I would have liked that we would have let you know. So, and after the fact, I mean, we'll find it out, and I can add breaking change notices so that when people encounter that in the future, they'll see it. So thank you for bringing it up. Patrick, if you can take a note of helping me find when we did
Yeah.
that, I'll add a breaking change.
Yeah.
We well, I guess while we're there, I'll just mention we have a list of obsolete features on our site. So this would be Learn Plantain app. In our documentation, important notes, we have a list of obsolete features, and let's see if it's even in here. Yeah, okay, here it is. Left side, left, right, sidebar. I suspect this is the one. We announced it in 118 and removed it in 120. So, or target removed, and it doesn't say. But we didn't update this. But this is a place where you can learn about things that we're going to do and when we did them. And so I guess that's another action item that we get our obsolete features list up to date.
Dale, were you taking out the execute API from the actions?
I'm sorry, not that I'm aware of. What were you? Did you see something on here, or where does that question come from?
I was sure there was something coming up on, was it 1.24 or 1.25 where that was coming out and you wanted people to use workflows instead?
No, the ability to run sharp schedule automation jobs, the ability to trigger those by way of a URL was removed.
Oh, okay.
And so, but no, we're not taking out. I mean, APIs is really the answer to that. That if you our current answer to that is that if you have something that a job that you're trying to run, things that you want to do, but when people do when triggered by a URL or a query, that you can do that very effectively and secure it better with an API call. So if the API calls a workflow that does the work that the set of actions, for example, that would be a nice recommended pattern. We have on our list to do the ability to add an action that would trigger an automation job. So that would be a full replacement to what we've already taken away. The ability to trigger a job, that would just be another form of a trigger. So that's on the list, but not done yet. All right. Who else has something that we should talk about?
I've had one thing with the session variables. I was making use of it on my site, and I'd keep having the server lose the session variables. I think someone said the DNN wasn't very reliable, so I've actually then made my session container to keep my session variables if I lose them, to sort of make up for the problem that I was having.
So you're saying I'm just kind of interested in the solution that you're mentioning. Is it truly use session or something else?
It was if you called for a session variable, I had a workflow that looked to see if it existed or not. if these two ones that I was using didn't exist, then I had a stored value in the database like Ben was doing with his pages.
Mm-hmm.
So I could always pull that value out, put it back into the session to then sort of stop this problem that was occurring.
Yep. I've seen, and I think we've talked about other solutions to that. When I'm, one of the things that I've done in the past is when you have a scenario where people are actually logged in, so you have a user ID that you can use. I've built a get variable token and a set variable token, so they're persisted to the database per user rather than session, which is transient.
Mine are these are per user as well. I can always look back at them.
Yep. Yep. And so, you know, I just kind of, in my case, I'd forego the session altogether in favor of just getting it from the database and having them be very sticky values, but able to be, they're done by name, right? So the token accepts the name of what you want to, of a variable that you want to set, stores it in the database. So as you think of more variables that you want to do, it's not like a strict table structure. It's just, you can add more records. So that's a pretty easy thing to accomplish with a token or two. But yep, that does point out you know, session is transient, and you can configure it longer, and we can talk about that if you want to, about how to configure it longer. But ultimately, you know, somebody's on your site and they've got a session variable and they walk away from it and come back tomorrow or 3 weeks from now, you know, it might be gone. So it's annoying.
No, sometimes I was losing it within 10 minutes.
Yeah, I think the default is 20.
Yeah.
And that is it, from a programmer to programmer, that is a technique that we've been, you know, we've had to deal with since the beginning of session variables in the internet. You know, they don't live forever, Dale, as we all know. And so when you are thinking your system through, when you make that call, say, okay, this is a great place for a session variable. Over at our place, we tend to think we'll use it as long as we're not going to set on it too terribly long. And then we have to put code in behind that to trap if that session had expired, to maybe not let the user go on and do something else that would be mission critical to that session being missing. So it's just kind of a thought process, but we've had great success with plan to app session, get session, set session. I don't know how that plays into DNN itself, but I'm not seeing any errors or any unexpected behavior like Anthony may be. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but we've never had to extend our server session time limit that I'm aware of. And if we have, you know, we certainly don't want them hanging around out there for days and days. But Dale, did I hear you right? 20 minutes seems like the default.
I think it is, and I was looking for my notes about how to even configure that, and
Yeah, because I'm
not finding it here at the moment. I could throw Patrick under the bus every now and then. Patrick, do you remember what that setting is?
I don't. I was also trying to remember the same thing.
Yeah, 20
I believe
minutes is
it's
the right
in the
one.
web config.
I believe you're right. It's part of II. There's a couple of settings in
Yep.
IIS.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's not really plan to app making that call. It's IIS that's making that call. It seems like.
Yeah, so I was kind of confusing it with, there's another one about keeping your app pool alive, so making your site stay very responsive. And we've worked with this one. Jim Anthony has been on the call today too. I see. Worked with Jim on this. So there's a setting in IIS load preload the site and set the start mode to always running in the application pool. And idle timeout to 0 so that the application pool never sleeps. So that's kind of related, but just in terms of that may be the one that defaults to 20 minutes. So, yep, session variables, transient.
Hey, Jerry, this is a question I've had. How are you, by the way? Nice to see you.
Fantastic.
What's the kind of impact? We've had a discussion kind of around this in servers, these session variables. What's the impact on the server / is it very expensive from a memory standpoint to keep these things alive for longer than 20 minutes? Because I've got some cases where it would be great to be just for kind of safety purposes, keep them alive longer than that. But I don't really know what the impact is on the server. Does anybody have an insight?
I personally have not seen an impact at all, but I'm also very frugal with session variables, meaning I don't have hundreds and hundreds of them. One of the more heavier duty sessions that comes to my mind is when I use an action called save state, and save state will save your form data, and you can save it to either sessions or cookies. And we chose to go sessions, and sometimes our forms are a little exhausting, and we do a save state just to save it all instead of doing some heavy programming to do that. And then we'll go to another page and load the state and do some more stuff with it. And it has worked perfectly. But again, as I said, we don't design that around systems that is going to be sitting there all day and then go and have to load the state. It's more of just, it's almost like a workflow. It's do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, and then it's over with all in a matter of moments in time. And we've had great success with it. Again,
Yeah, like once the form has been executed, we generally clear the state at that point in time so that it's not just hanging out there anymore.
Yeah, but to your point, I've not seen us, kill the server or bog it down in any way or anything like that. But that would take somebody a little higher pay tier than mine to know what exactly is going on the server. I mean, you got to ask, because there's a memory pool out there, and if all those sessions are taking up that space on that server, is that eating up resources? And so, again, as a programmer, my advice is use session variables, but use them frugal. Don't just get lazy with it and let the session do all the work for you on everything. Use them when you're moving from page to page, and you need a way to remember something as you leave that page and go on to another page somehow. But
I can tell you this much, it's going to depend, for one thing, how much memory you have on your server, and also how many people are accessing those particular forms like filling out a form or whatever. And if you're doing it properly, like we do, where we're clearing the form once it's been executed, obviously it frees it right back up. But it's very minimal. In our case, we run pretty heavy loads. Jerry can tell you, we have a lot of people accessing the site. We got about, I don't know, 30 to 40,000 people in the database, and they're constantly doing things that filling out forms, especially when they're signing up for different meetings and stuff like that. But we've never run into an issue with it.
begs the question, though. It begs the question. Just the user context of DNN. When a user logs in, you got all your user tokens available to you. Is that in session variables? And if it is, you've got 20,000 users logged in simultaneously, where does all that live, right? Where's this magic container somewhere? I mean, obviously it's on the server's memory somewhere.
Yeah.
And and that's not even really us doing our own personal session programming. That's just DNN doing its thing. So So I don't know.
And add a level to that, right? Because like the tokens that we generate are also cached, and caching comes into play. Where are those cached? But I was just doing a little bit of research about sessions, and you can configure it for SQL Server. So out of process session state for SQL Server, so that they're being stored there. You can configure it to be in memory. You can configure your own custom session state, but that's happening at the IIS level. So that's a research project there, but I think by default it's probably happening in memory and consuming memory, and the server takes care of it.
So back to Anthony's original question, would we encourage him to look in his web config file and see how long his sessions are set to expire?
My sessions are set for 20. I just kept
Okay.
having an issue where I'd be sitting on a page and then they just disappear on me. And then it was used to pull out certain things. And then if I refresh so I'd have to log out of the user and come back in to reset things back up. And I tried this other setting to increase the pool, seemed to work, but then it would keep sort of occurring. So then I just took Ben's idea and saved them in memory. So if they ever disappeared, so they're sort of sitting there so I can use them all the time. I can always pull them back out of the database. So I looked at all those other options as to like, why was it dropping out, but couldn't figure out why. And this seems to have solved the problem.
Okay. Wow.
I mean, I think that's generally, Anthony, a very good approach, because essentially you're creating your own cookie trail, if you would, using SQL in that case. So that's very good. Yeah, the thing about the memory variables, session variables, is they're very convenient, easy to use. So, but thank you. I appreciate it, guys.
Sure. And while we're talking about those, there's others. You can do them through cookies, but then that's giving control to the browser and potentially revealing. Whatever you're storing as a cookie is retrievable, but it's also visible to the users and clearable by the users. So you're a little dependent on them.
That's why I had it. That's why I had the sessions and not cookies or in the browser bar.
Yep, and I've certainly worked. I've worked with people that have security considerations. They don't want it visible in the browser bar or on a cookie. They want it transient and invisible, and session gets you there for that. So.
Dale, I was just reading here, it says that like if you're using server sessions, that the data is lost after a period of inactivity, usually around 20 minutes. Browser cookies usually last longer, it says.
Right, and our browser cookies scenario can give you, you can choose the expiration date, and you can change that. Right. So you can choose a 1-year date, and then when they sign on again or use that, you can extend that just by resetting the cookie. So it's possible. I mean, if you're registering a browser or if you're doing something that's a preference, and you wouldn't want to use it for a lot of data, but small amounts of data, cookies, that's what they're intended for. It's a good spot and very reliable. But again, you're dependent on the individual browser and whether they'll even allow a cookie setting. Good. Something else.
I'd like to open up a can of worms on something that I don't know if any of you are old enough to remember the TV show Hee Haw, when the guy goes in there and tells the doctor it hurts when I do this, and the doctor says, well, don't do that. And so this might be where you just tell me, don't do that. But have any of you guys ever experienced, or have we ever documented or discussed or talked about two browsers open at the same time on the same website, logged into two different people, and start getting crosstalk between records updating and things. Case in point, it seems to be just a no-no. Just don't do it. But we have customer service reps that are so busy, they may open up 5 browsers and be logged and have 5 different customers on the screen for whatever reason. And these could be, just think of them as DNN logins. And they click save on this record and it pulled data from the other browser window into that window and updated the wrong record. This happens when you're on the same browser. Case in point, we'll just say Microsoft Edge, and you have 5 tabs open and you're logged in different places on the same website. It's important that we know it's the same website, but you went to this tab and logged in as this user, and you went to that tab and logged in as that user. And now you start getting crazy stuff happening between the two. You won't experience that if you have a Chrome browser running and an Edge browser running, because they're managing their memory differently or independently somehow. But Dale, does that mean anything to you? Do you have any clue what I'm talking about?
I could speak to that.
I knew Ben would. I knew you were jumping there. I should have just addressed it straight to you, Ben.
The short answer is don't do that.
Don't do that.
The reason being is you're not actually logged in on multiple accounts.
Mm-mm.
When you open up another tab and log in as another user, you've logged in as that user everywhere. The whole entire browser uses that user instance. You've literally logged out of the previous user and logged into a new one. So even though your other browser looks like you're logged in as someone else, as soon as you do an action, it's going to take the currently logged in user, which happens to be the last one you logged in as.
Understood. And that's how I saw it. And I'm chasing some alligators right now, where one of our clients, our data was getting a little jacked up, and you ask the client, well, did you have multiple browsers open? Oh no, we never do that, but you just don't know, and so I'm looking for these possibilities where they updated a record and it inherited from somebody else's record, and that's what it screams to me, was a browser with 2 tabs open.
And now this kind of connects up with maybe the other question, that if you have multiples open, and talking about session, right? You're in one browser. When you're viewing a particular website, you're sharing cookies and session across those. So if browser A sets a session variable and you're on the same site, you look at it and browser B is going to get that value, right? So
Understood.
Is session shared across that way? I thought session was per tab.
Oh no.
No, I think this session is in one browser. I think the same session values apply if you open another tab. Pretty sure about that.
Yeah, it's the same across.
Yeah.
That's my experience. And yeah, if you accidentally log in as someone else, then
how many people?
Previous one.
Who on the call uses, because I use this widely, and I'm actually sometimes surprised that a lot of people don't, but Chrome profiles, because I use this extensively. I'm always opening up I have several in place already. Sometimes I add new ones for special purposes, but Chrome profiles are so useful for this very use case, because you don't have to switch browsers. You can stay in the same browser, but when you open a separate Chrome profile, you're working under a whole new set of data. Nothing carries over. Your session variables, your cookies, your history, your favorites, none of it is shared. It's like doing an incognito window, but you can save it, and you can keep you can keep a whole separate set of favorites. And I use this extensively for testing purposes. Like I'll have one Chrome profile open with a user logged in, and one Chrome profile with my host login, and I can go back and forth. Does anybody on the call use this feature in Chrome?
I have used it before when I'm primarily working with like this client that we're talking about uses Gmail for their email, And a lot of times, if I'm going in there doing research on something for them, I will have my own personal profile open, and then I'll log in as the administrator profile as well.
So, I mean, I think that's worth, in this scenario that you're talking about, maybe it's worth trying to guide them in that direction of using Chrome profiles.
And yet, you can't control what 40,000 people do.
No, yeah, I understand. Yeah, but it's a,
So from a design standpoint, I mean, if you're finding that they do this, you might have to detect it and reject it, or put up with another, find some, I mean, yeah, find some other way to handle it.
Jerry, when they save the data, I mean, is this happening on specific pages a lot, or it's like a whole bunch of different areas in your site that this happens?
Well, I have it isolated down to one set of pages. And again, back to Dale's point, it's not 40,000 people opening multiple browsers and logging into different accounts. Thank goodness that's not the case. Of the 40,000 people, each of those 40,000 can only log into their own account. And so if they open multiple browsers, they'd be just stepping on their own toes. And I don't think that would be the end of the world. However, we have customer service reps. And just to keep it simple, Ben, let's say we have 5 of those customer service reps, and they are servicing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of customers. And despite our training, they might be opening multiple browsers with a different customer logged in, which would be a user, a DNN user to you. And that could be some serious issues.
I've actually, there are 2 ways really to, well, 3 ways to address this. The first one is don't do it.
Yes.
The second one would be if you have narrowed it down to a handful of pages that are causing this issue, what you can do is when the page first loads, you, for example, would save in a hidden field on your action form the current user ID. At the time you submit to save, you validate that the current user ID is the same as the user ID that was stored in the hidden field. If it's not, that means the person logged in with a new account, in which case you kick out a message and say, you've logged in with a different account, you no longer have access to this data. That's one way. The other way, which is a way that I have done, is I've basically written certain pages to allow you, or allow, let's say, for example, a customer service rep to view a client's data without the need to log out and log in as a new user. You stay in with your superpower account, so to speak, but that particular form recognizes that, let's say you're an employee or you're a customer service rep, and it'll show you, let's say, a drop down with a list of customers. You select the customer you want, and then you're working with their data. So each page would then be unique. You can open up another page, look at a different customer, open up another page, look at a different one. And because of that drop down, that's what's controlling the data that you're viewing. But the only people that get that option would be the employees, the ones that you give that permission to.
And we do very similar things to that, which begs this question. Imagine your scenario where you are an administrator to the website, we'll call it. You're not a customer of this website. You actually are logged in and you're a customer service rep, we'll call it. And you now have a particular customer that you need to go make a change on their record. And so you look up their record and you now are presented with a screen that has all of their data on it. This is an action form. And when I say their data, not the customer service person, the customer itself. And they can make the change and they click the save button. It's something like that where we're getting the crosstalk to happen, where the customer is overriding the customer service record. They're both records in the user table and DNN logins, but that one is that. So I'm tracing that. Here comes my ultimate programming quiz for the day. Load user. So you're logged in as you, Ben, and you are an admin person, and you load one of these particular users into the context. make changes on a form, and then save back out to that user. I mean, I've had great success doing that for years. It seems to work very well. But would you call that okay programming, or is that just no, you shouldn't be doing it like that? There's a better way. Because that's what I am doing, and it works 99% of the time, but I'm getting some weird occurrences where I've got that crosstalk happening, and I'm trying to trace that and just see what scenario is creating that to happen. So if I wasn't too clear, imagine this,
I don't use load user very often, but if you're tracking it down to a load user issue, my first thought is that you're doing load user. At one point, you have to remember that at the end of the action stack, your scope ends and closes. So if you're doing a load user at the time of form load, and then you submit the data to save, you have to do a load user again at the save button to reinstantiate that user. And if you're not, then that's where potential crosstalk could happen, because you're assuming you're saving under a particular user when you're not. You're actually saving now on the current user again.
I totally get that and understand it. And if that were my case, it'd be happening every time, all the time. I'm chasing a random occurrence here. And so I won't burn up all our time trying to find my problem, but just these types of programming techniques help me know what's just good programming technique and not. But I appreciate your help on that. But yeah, so the real takeaway from this part of the conversation is multiple tabs open on the same browser. The most recent or the last login takes precedence. That's the one that's going to happen.
You're logged in as that person.
Tabs,
so if you're doing user impersonation, the last user you're logging into is what's going to affect all of your tabs. That's who you're now logged in as.
From a DNN standpoint, I believe it's this cookie that tells it who you are. And might, yeah, I believe it's that cookie. So, and that cookie is shared across your browser. So I mean, that's the mechanism by which it figures out who you are. And like, if you delete that cookie, you'll find that you'll be logged out. I don't know if you've been following along, but I've proven this part where session, I've got two different tabs, and let's do this just in case anybody recognizes it, but I'm setting session here, and if I get session, it returns it here. Go to the same tab and get session, same different tab, same browser. It retrieves that. So it's common. The session remains common to both. I think you'd find cookie is the same way. We go to the same browser in incognito. The get session comes up nothing. So you're isolated. If you went to a different browser, it'd be isolated. But within the same browser, and as Patrick points out, the same what is it? Persona. You use profile. Same profile.
Yeah, the Chrome profile.
Same browser, same profile. It's going to come up. So browser is a shared attribute. Session shared attribute. Cool. What else? Just for seriously, there's got to be. I mean, always have a little something in my pocket to talk about if you want to, but seriously, nobody else has something that like this brain trust to address.
Dale, I'd like to ask a question about, as Jerry mentioned, we're doing upgrades, and I know DNN 9.11.2 is out. Where does Planet App and that version of DNN stand right now?
So our official recommendation is 9.11.0. And that just is that we haven't tested against 9.11.2. When we start our next version 126, I think we'll be asking all of our developers to be doing it under 9.11.2, and therefore we'll get miles on it and have confidence in it. We have heard and know that 9.11.1 that there's a conflict that's a problem but now, which is not to say don't go to 9.11.2. It's just we haven't, come down and said, yeah, we're absolutely good with it. So you might discover something that would be annoying, and your mileage may vary. Test your scenario.
Define annoying, like the site crashing, stuff like that.
Yeah. My understanding is it's better, right? That it's 9.11.0, but without the bugs, and the site assets are improved. But in terms of actually us spending the time to test it out, we haven't done it.
Okay.
And that's another one of those that on our list here, we have DNN compatibility, and we list our version. We do a pretty good job of keeping this page up to date. So when you're trying to figure out whether to go beyond, when you're ready to upgrade a version, this would be a great place to come and look. Also, in our updates tab, wherever that is, configuration updates, we only offer versions. I mean, when you go to the next higher version, it will say, oh, there's a higher DNN version available, and give you the opportunity to install it. We only offer that when we have put our seal of approval on that version. So right now it would still offer 9.11.0 if you were in the circumstance where it's offering an upgrade.
When you go to the upgrades, it does the 9.11.2, not 9.11.0 as an option.
Are you calling me a liar?
Yeah, when I finally got the site to get to 1.23, it then says the option of going to 9.11.2 when I go to do the upgrade.
So I may have been giving old information. The last that I knew, you're on 1.23.
Yeah, I finally managed to get it up to 1.23.
Okay. Bring up our 1.23 quality assurance system and see what it does for me. Patrick, have you heard anything different from what I've been spouting?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, my screen says update to 9.11.2 to upgrade the platform.
Mm-hmm. And I don't doubt you. I'm just trying to figure out whether we're is that instance happen to be marked as a dev instance, or is it a standard?
This is actually my live instance.
Okay.
I just saw that on one of my sites, and that what Anthony is saying is visible if you're using the old UI for updates.
Yeah.
If you're in the new UI, it's not offering 9 or 11.2.
Thank you for helping to sort that one out, Mark. Within the updates, we have legacy UI and the new UI. Let's see what this one is offering. And what this is. This is a 9.11.0. It's not going to offer anything anyway. Yes, this one 9.11.2. Yep. So we will take a note that and find a better answer. didn't think that we were offering this, but also this legacy UI will not be present in version 1.5 above, so we won't get conflicting answers. But something for the product team to look into. Patrick, help me remember to do that, please.
Yeah, definitely.
Good question. Again, I don't know of any reason, I don't know of anything that's bad about. Just didn't think we'd gotten there yet. What else? 10 minutes more. All right, I'm just going to pull something random out of my bag here. I've got I had a question this week from somebody who has international, and I just want to make sure that you're aware, among other things, that our date picker can easily be configured to use other languages. Does this impact anybody or of interest to anyone?
We do have the one site that has US, Ireland, Great Britain, and France. So yeah, that would be of interest.
Well, I'm just going to show the two settings that are really quite easy to do. We're using a tool called Flat Picker. So FLATPICKR. And on that, you can find different URLs to load that provides the parameters. It's a small JavaScript file that loads up the parameters, and we can point you to them, or I can show you where I can help you find them, right? But this is the one for Spanish, so it use this URL plus the country code, and I'm just going to drop it on the chat just for anybody who might want it. So this is the one for Spanish, but so you have to have that loaded on your page, and in this case I'm doing that with an on-page load static files. And then within your date picker itself, there is a section, the Flat Picker Options Override, which is a JavaScript object, and I'm just providing a JSON that says locale set to Spanish ES. So, and this could be done dynamically, right? With because this accepts tokens, you could provide this separately. But with those two settings, you'll get the impact that the dates will be rendered in another language.
Good to know, Dale.
What else did I pick out? There was a bug with the multi-file upload, which has been fixed. So this is that it's fixed at version 5.24.28. It's a hot fix that's available right now. But when you do a multi-file upload, there is a section for each file that gives you access to the file name of each file, and you can do something with it. So for example, it might be uploaded and you want to copy it someplace else or put that information into a database somewhere. And so our bug was that the correct operation and what it's been returned to is this file name pattern is applied to give the file its name on the server within the folder, and then these names, like whatever the field name is, file name, should be after the file name pattern has been applied. One of our hot fixes in 5.24 broke that, and so instead the file name was the actual file name as it was uploaded from the browser, and causing much annoyance for the people who were relying on the functionality. So it's something that got broken and then a few days later got fixed, but it's annoying for those who had to deal with it. And brought me, if you happen to catch Low Code Cafe this week, I mentioned the hot fixes that we offer, unless we recommend them, they should be applied in your, I mean, by all means, apply them in your test environments, but apply them sparingly in your production environment, because the hot fixes are tested for the particular problem that they were trying to address and not for the product as a whole. So you should apply them with under advisement or with care and backup and testing.
So Dale, isn't that the field that allows a person to crop and resize a picture while they're uploading?
I don't think
The
so. I think
File
that's
manager?
file manager. This is multi-file upload. So
Okay. All right, different one.
because there is another one, multi-file manager. So this one, let's see, just making sure it doesn't have, it has a size limit, but it doesn't have any changes. If we go to a file manager,
That's only the file manager that does that, not the multi-file.
Right.
You can't adjust the sizes on the multi-file.
yeah, so you can do that here. And then we decided, and I posted that in another Campfire contribution, that there's an action that the thumbnail creator that lets you do that, do manipulations on those as well.
So would you mind returning to that multi-file upload settings, please?
Sure.
And at the top of the settings, so we can see the information that it provides on form submit. On submit, it creates tokens field name, which is the file name on the server. Since it's a multi-file upload, when can you get just one field name? 'Cause I have used that token before and it doesn't return anything.
You get it here for each file.
Yeah, I learned that after a lot of trial and error, but I guess what I'm getting to is why is it above as an available token? I'm not sure when that comes into play.
So let's take a look at, I mean, we can do this easily here in my submit. I'm displaying an error message that includes the actually wrong field. So I'm going to take this pix multi-file upload and grab the field. Nope, I'm just going to be lazy and hit append all fields. So it's going to display the value when we click submit as part of an error message. So let's do it. We'll say add files.
Yeah, so I'd suggest adding only one file in your
I'm
test.
gonna, well, okay, I'm gonna try two just for call it a, we'll do it both ways, and B, we'll have two different JPEGs here, but we'll pick a JPEG. And so we see it and submit, and it gives the value in that file. It returns it as a JSON array with just the one name. If I add more files, A and B, now it looks like I've got three, and submit, we get a JSON array of all three files. So the for each is giving you the opportunity to touch each file individually. The raw name of the element gives you an array that you can use separately. So there's different purposes, and you just have to see what's in there.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. And I don't know if you noticed, but I mean, it was like A JPEG and B JPEG, and my file name pattern got applied, and so you see the renaming took place here in the tool, but then also that renaming is part of what's returned. So that's the bug that was there, and that's the bug that was fixed. Great. All right, that's a full session for today. I'm going to go to my happy low coding slide. In just a second, we're going to start our Afterglow segment, but I'm you know, it was Good Friday. It was just me and eventually one or two other people. So here we are. We've got a full house today. I'm glad that you came. Thank you guys for showing. I'm going to turn off the recording and we will go to Afterglow. See you next week.